Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Talk to Sven. Before we start with this week's theme, I would just like to acknowledge the horrible situation and incident that we had at the Pick and Pay here in Windhoek, where one of our employees got brutally assaulted. We as the group, and me personally, condemn the situation, and we will do everything to look after our employee, give her the highest care we can, and support everyone to take the things to wherever it needs to be taken. It's a very serious matter, and I just want to assure all of our viewers that we will be doing everything. Now to this week's edition. This is our third and final week on digital innovation. And here I welcome Salma, firstly, again, our sign interpreter. And then we've got, again, Lucy May here with us today. And a very special guest, Nathan, we will be hearing more about him later. And of course, one more guest. But before we start, Lucy May, give us a short recap.
Yes, with pleasure. So we started the digital innovation series to your point earlier on. This is the third one. In the first one, we sort of dissected what digital innovation stands for, correct? Because it's this big world with many, many pillars underneath. So digital innovation in a nutshell is every time that a business applies novel technology to solve or develop a problem internally, but it is also applied to institutes and government bodies and so forth. Within the digital innovation, what we went through on week one was a quick highlight on data. How important data is in the era of the fourth industrial revolution, and how data is becoming the new currency of actually business intelligence, so bringing that competitive edge. The other point that we sort of looked through was how omni-channel approach to business is enhancing the consumer centricity experience or customer centricity, depending on the industry, that the businesses are so much seeking for. Then the other point that we also reviewed was digital transformation. What it stands for is that journey where digital innovation is implemented in the different companies. But within that, we had a highlight on the three pillars to be successful within digital innovation. Those being culture, and basically the mindset of a company, the right solution from a technological point of view, and embarking into the review of smart processes within a business. Mm-hmm. Then the second episode that we had on digital innovation latched probably into that digital transformation piece. Why some companies managed and thrive with those digital transformation journeys and the implementation of digital innovation, and some other didn't. So we looked at the international case studies because probably those are probably where everybody from a popular perspective they can relate to. And then in some of the comments, a few viewers were saying, let's bring it to Namibia. What about Namibia? Especially when we started talking about hackathons. So my understanding is that, Sven, you have a couple of brilliant guests today. So yes, there's Nathan that will take us through what hackathons in Namibia have been. But I understand there's somebody that is also close to you that is not here today. So maybe you can introduce that person as well.
Indeed, Lucy May. It's in fact my stepson, Philip, who has been participating in hackathons in Germany. And he's been interviewed by my dear colleague, Jean, who works in the digital department within the ONO group. And unfortunately, Philip couldn't be here. And that's why we had him interviewed just before the session. And let's listen to the interview.
Well, Mau's Hackathon is an event where you basically get a group of people together, give them an issue or problem to solve. Can go from anywhere to 3 hours to a few days. And basically give the problem to the people, form groups, and then see what solutions come out of it. That's how I see a hackathon.
And you've previously taken part in these?
Yeah, I've actually also organized a few in Germany. I'm part of an association called Duala Consulting, where it's basically a student association.
So you actually work for them?
Yeah, basically. And there I'm also head of the IT department in that association. And what we organized a few times now is hackathons, or basically hackathon. It's the same principle, where companies basically give us problems, and then we organize the event, put it up on social media, get people to join, and then see what results come out of it.
So how many people usually take part in these events?
Roughly about 25 to 40 people. That's usually the groups we get.
And are there any prerequisites or qualifications that you require to take part in the event?
No, we publish it on our social media platforms, and anybody is welcome to join and try their luck.
So you market these to the general public?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they sign up online and they can take part?
Yeah, we've got a form where you just enter your details, and then we'll let you know when the event will take place and when you need to be at that event.
So can you give me an idea of what kind of groups of people usually attend these?
It's mostly students, but also students from different fields like tourism and event management, and there's always a mixture of a few students, and also mostly people. A few times we had business owners from the cities as well. They came and joined. So it's a mixed bunch of people.
So it's not specifically in a digital or IT or ICT field. You've had tourism, business owners.
Yeah, the problems that we usually get are more to the IT and business side. But it's always good to have people from the tourism sector. It just brings in different ideas that a normal IT or business guy will not think of. And that's what makes these events actually pretty cool, because you've got that huge collection of different ideas and you need to form one solution. That's what I enjoy about those events.
That's awesome. So when these are conducted, do people come in pre-selected groups, or do you decide who goes in what group?
We choose the groups by random. So basically after
so it's completely randomized?
Yeah, randomized. After we introduced the problem and how we'll go on, we split the groups into 5 to 8 people, and then they go on.
And then they get a certain amount of time to solve a problem that was presented to them?
Yeah, usually what we do, we start off by presenting the problem and splitting the groups. And then what we also do is, in each group, we put a member of the association. So that just to help kickstart a few ideas and just to get them onto the right track. And then after about 3 hours, we cut it, and then they need to present their results to the owners of the companies that gave us the problem. For example, SAP in Germany, they are one of the people or one of the companies that always provide us with an issue or a problem. And then at the end, the people need to present their ideas. And
so how do you come up with these problems, and how are they selected?
Well, the problems we don't basically come up with by ourselves. What we do before we organize the event, we go to the companies and ask them, listen, we're organizing a hackathon. Do you have any IT or business-related issues you're facing at the moment, and which we could basically use to form a hackathon? And then we'll present the ideas at the end.
So these hackathons that you've had previously, has it resulted in some valuable information, solutions? Can you give us an example?
Yes. The one that I attended, I was actually in the winning group. It was a company, they rent out student accommodations.
Okay.
And they've noticed that over the last 5 years, the amount of flats they rented out went down. And then that was basically the use case that we had to discuss and plan. And then we found out they had a website, but they had no social media presence at all. Okay. So basically our idea was to restructure their website, make it visibly more attracting, and then also build them a social media presence. And that worked. They've been selling about 20% more in the last year. So you can see an increase in
So these hackathons don't only result in a theoretical resolution to a problem, but it's actually implemented afterwards.
Yeah, what we usually do, the winning groups, they also get the opportunity to go together with the company that provided the problem and to see, or to continue with that idea and to see how one could really implement it and change the current system to improve it at the end.
That's awesome. Do you think something like this could work in Namibia?
Definitely, yeah. Because I think Namibia has a few companies and people that got IT or business-related issues, but don't have the infrastructure or the knowledge base to solve the issues themselves. And there's something like Hackathon is pretty cool because you have a bunch of people all with a different background and they can put their minds together on one singular problem and come up with a pretty good solution at the end.
So what kind of solution do you think we can come up in Namibia, if you can think of an example?
One could, for example, let's say that filling out of books going into shops.
The registry?
The registry, yeah.
For the COVID?
For the COVID. Yeah, when you go into the shop, that book you need to fill out with your personal details. I personally think one could optimize that whole process by developing some kind of system. And yeah, that would be one idea for a hackathon.
To streamline that process?
Yeah, basically to find a solution to get rid of the pen and the paper and get into a digital system.
So what kind of rewards are given to the attendees or the winners of the hackathon when they come up with a solution?
Mm-hmm. So the winners usually get a prize money.
Okay.
It's about 200 euros or something. And as I mentioned just now, the opportunity to work together with the company to really implement the idea they had. So it's prize money and opportunity.
So if we decide to do something like this in Namibia, would you take part in it?
Definitely, yeah. I think everybody should join because it's a huge opportunity for yourself and just to gain knowledge and experience, and yeah, definitely.
Great. Thank you, Philip. Very interesting conversation. And I'm not biased, of course. Anyway, so let's talk about this for a moment. I think it's firstly also discovered, and we picked up a comment. I think it was Nadia who said that there were hackathons here before in Namibia.
Yes.
And of course, we went to hunt for it and look for it. And we understand.
Discovered a few, huh?
Yeah, quite a few apparently. And
yes.
But that's apparently 2 years ago, and so.
Yes.
We.
What I liked about what Philip said is that that accessibility, that it's pretty wide. My recollections of Hackathon is also much more connected to UNDP goals, correct? So overarching goals of these big missions and ambitions that institutes or bodies or government and yes, large corporate have to, bring a sustainable solution on the market that could be commercialized afterwards. What Philip was actually also telling us is that you can have also these in smaller pockets, without having to go too big, and even coming out with a solution of actually revamping a website or revamping which in many ways is a marketing strategy of a company that has is lacking that type of talent internally or expertise. So in many ways, you can already see how digital innovation in pockets can actually resolve real problems. It's not going to stay in the table of discussion, but there is actually an action plan and a reality happening. So it is definitely something that can be pursued in Namibia. That has already happened. But I would say the golden thread here is that you don't need enormous sponsors, but you can also do it, in different scales and different levels. So I really enjoyed this interview with Philip. But yes, Nathan is one of the hackathonists that probably shined the most within Namibia for having participated to more than one.
And I hear he won.
Yes.
3 times already. The hackathon.
Part of the winning group, yeah.
Nathan,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you.
To our session.
Thank you.
And let's hear about you a little bit first before you tell us about the hackathon.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the platform. My name is Nathan Das Neves Lumbunji, and I'm a software developer. And like Lucy May said, I've participated in quite a few hackathons here. Because most of them, it's because I'm linked to NUST and I'm a software graduate student in software development, and I'm currently pursuing my honors in software development also. And yes, I'm currently working at Aztec Consulting as a support consultant, and yeah, that's pretty much me.
Great.
Yes.
Wonderful. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Tell us about one of those examples. Like Philip told us, give us now an example on the student accommodation.
Yes.
What were the sort of problems you were?
The very first hackathon, I think that was probably 4 years ago in 2016. That was NUST that partnered with, I think, one of the government institutes, and we had to come up with a solution that addresses gender-based violence. Yeah, so there was they brought a group of different software developers from different places, so anyone was free to join. So you had to come together and then put yourself into groups and try and come up with a solution to an app or something that would address that problem in Namibia specifically. Yeah, so we competed with groups from, there were different groups from industries, and there was also students from the University of NUST, UNAM. Yeah, I think that was a 2-day hackathon. So we started in the evening and throughout the night, and the winners were announced in the morning. Yes.
And you were one of the winners?
I came in the third group, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was the first hackathon I participated in.
And what was the prize out there?
The prize was, if I can recall, I think there was 3 different prizes. The first was, I think it was prize money and few gadgets, yeah. Laptops, everyone in the first group got laptops, I think.
Wow.
And the second group was tablets and money. Third group, I think that was just money and a few computer gadgets, like the internet adapter, and yeah, it was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was some time ago?
Yeah, that was the first time, I think, when my first year in pursuing the degree. That was 2016, if I can recall. Yeah, that was some time ago.
And I don't know whether you know. I haven't heard that for quite some time.
The last one I participated in was in 2018. Yes. That one was, I think, won by Standard Bank, where they announced it, and there was a really huge prize to be won, and we came in the first group.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so
Well done.
that was really interesting.
And laptops again?
No, that was actually prize money. I think it
Prize
was
money.
about 20,000, I think.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And since then, has been no further hackathons?
Since then, it has been really quiet. Yes, it has been really quiet, because I would have participated in one.
Of course.
And you wouldn't know why was it because of the economy at the time, or is it?
I think probably mostly it's due to probably sponsors. There weren't enough sponsors, because usually I think the second hackathon was the company Green, so they sponsored the hackathon, and NUST collaborated with them, so they brought the students together, and we had to come up with a solution for, I think, traffic. Yes. And yeah, I think all the hackathons are sponsored by let's say a company and partnered with NUST. So maybe sponsors would be the reason why we hadn't seen any recently.
And you had fun?
It was really fun. Yes.
Yeah, I must say, I think one thing is very clear that, I mean, you said it, Philip said it, anyone can participate.
Yes.
And no matter where you come from, which background you have. I mean, look at the example of from a tourism industry, and I think that we often forget that everyone has got something to offer, and no matter whether you work in the tourism industry or whether you work in the pharmacy or whatever, but you know, the benefit of such hackathon is that you access different thinking, knowledge, and so forth. And
what amazed me also that also Nathan mentioned, but definitely Philip highlighted the opportunity of a career, correct? Because he was saying once the piece or the solution is delivered, then you have obviously to implement it, which usually is part of that digital transformation pillar. And to implement it, you need obviously the experts from a technological point of view, but also you need, to your point, project managers and people around it to make it happen, correct? Because it will have an impact within the culture or whatever the situation within any company is. And suddenly it's an opening for opportunities, cross-functionalities, or people discovering their own abilities in actually different realm that they have, you know, not explored before. That, I believe, is the beauty of the collaboration and what Hackathon triggers. So it's it sounds like such a technical word, but in truth, inside, there's a whole business opportunity and future for young entrepreneurs and young technical people.
True.
Is that what you also experience, Nathan?
Yes, I think because usually you would expect a lot of obviously programmers and software development students, but we had quite a few different students from different courses, industries. And I think with us programmers, we usually just want to jump into the code and start solving solutions. But then we kind of find out that once we sat down and tried and shared ideas, you'd find that people in different, let's say in health, they let's say find a niche into which they need a solution to, but we wouldn't know about that because that's not the field that we in. But where we come in is just they give us the idea and we just put it into a system and try and just code. But most of the ideas come from the different industries, the different
So in a nutshell, in these teams, you always have an industry expert that stirs the sort of the way of what is actually needed, so articulates the narrative of what is needed.
Yes, true.
And basically you connect the dots.
Yes, true.
And that, for me, is the brilliant opportunity behind Hackathons, which it belongs to this generation, if I can put it that way. It belongs to really the digital innovation and collaboration, cross-functionality, and do you remember we were saying last time, the cognitive adaptability. So being able to actually see through things and actually suddenly see another interpretation. It is that transferable skills that where in an hackathon it gets polished, I would say.
Yeah, interesting. And I think, while we're discussing it and trying to interview people like you and Philip and so forth, because we are obviously, as the owner group, we are planning to also hosting hackathons going forward. But we are really trying to study what has worked, what hasn't worked.
Correct.
And very interesting, I just received a comment from Bangula Amgongo, who was saying we've been hosting hackathons since 2013.
Oh, wow.
And, the interesting part, we are a large group, and I have not heard from it so far. So I think that's also the opportunity while we talk about this one, that we, maybe that's a huge opportunity for our group, opportunity for other companies as well. If we haven't heard about those so far, there's the opportunity that maybe many more could be beneficiate from this.
Yes. And join forces, huh?
And join forces.
In many ways.
And the obviously the other thing I had in my mind is we have a hackathon pre-COVID and we have a hackathon post-COVID.
Yes.
How's that going to look like? I'm surely we talked I understand that often boardrooms or not even boardrooms or larger rooms are hired, and then you have groups working in groups now, obviously post-COVID.
with the mask.
How's that going to work now?
Yeah,
But there must be opportunity, no?
exactly.
Post-COVID, I think, because maybe they could host the hackathons online, where everyone in his own space, and then there's a platform online, and everyone tries to solve the solution that's highlighted there. That's probably where everything is moving to now, I think.
Sort of a crowdsourcing
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
probably.
means you probably could access, people that are elsewhere or outside Namibia.
Yes.
Yeah.
To invite them to these hackathons to find sort of great solutions, ideas, and thoughts.
Yes. Yes.
For business development.
Absolutely. And in many ways, there are already existing platforms like this. To mention something similar, you have your Kickstarters, where is sort of your auction online projects already developed, or ideas or initiatives of all sorts of nature, and people can actually buy shares, sort of. In some scenarios, you can actually buy shares within that company. Most cases, you just give a donation and then you get a goodie bag. But it's new ways of actually financing youth entrepreneurship done digitally, done online. So Hackathon, probably the beauty of it was actually to fit all these developers and bright minds in one room and gets things done within, to the point of, Philip, sometimes it gets days, sometimes it's hours, depending also on how sophisticated and the requirements behind the project. But in a nutshell, there is no limit, correct?
Yeah, no, it's not.
It can kind of, the flexibility behind of what is available today and how we can do it digitally, it's probably limitless.
It is. It is. I think there's probably, Google has I think it's every year they have these code camps where people from different countries all over the world, they have to solve a solution that Google gives, and then the winners get a prize of some sort. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it could work.
And I think you're making a very interesting comment, because we have to study, in the development of such a, hosting a hackathon going forward as well, and finding, integrating into at least already in our business as well. Inviting the public there, is how do we make this sustainable? And I think you mentioned now the
UNDP.
And also the creating the company.
Yes.
In which you can have a wider audience invited, also participating by contributing or helping financially.
Yes.
Because I think great ideas, we see it in the business every day.
Yes.
Great ideas are always great.
True.
But if you don't find sustainable
happen.
solutions, they come and go.
Yes.
And I think that's maybe another important matter we need to consider. How do we continuously fund such innovations?
Yeah.
Yes. It is probably the dilemma of many companies. This is, I think, also why it is done in events and batches. But to your point, it's all about making it happen and finding a way that the implementation finds its roots, and then it keeps on growing by itself. So sustainability is really that. Becoming an independent source that actually can make money, so it's self-funded in many ways. But Hackathon is not just, it doesn't have just to be a sort of a business machine piece. It can be also translated into community pieces and bring the solve there. This is why the UNDP has those different pillars, and under each pillar you basically dissect which piece has more urgency, or which piece may be the low-hanging fruit. It is a very, very tedious conversation, I would say, but not one that we should hesitate to have, for sure. Yeah.
I had also a interview this morning, and we were talking about how important the culture is post-COVID. That we develop a certain culture. And we received this wonderful comment here by Quentin Potrita, who says, wonderful opportunity to run these via high schools, a fantastic way to build a problem-solving generation.
Yes.
I think, that's the same thing. Even we are, I believe worldwide we have a real issue on leadership.
Yes.
And then you ask yourself, why is that? To me, leadership should be taught on schools.
True.
Right? And so that we are not only as Francois said here, we're not only what do you call that, problem-solving generation, but a leadership generation, creating a leadership generation.
Yes.
Very interesting. And I think, Peter, Quentin, I can only say what a wonderful idea, and the question now is how do we, how do we take that forward? Is another thought of having a hackathon.
Yeah.
In fact, how do we make that part of creating a new culture, a Namibian culture of problem solving, and maybe not even problem solving, opportunity seizure as a major. We as Namibians, we need to find new ways of doing things. That's for sure.
It's very interesting what you mentioned, or Francois mentioned about it's not a generation of problem solving, but what about anticipating? So suddenly, if we step into that dimension, then probably the type of problems will change, correct? Because we anticipate a few things through education. I always say #education is transformation. It is. The moment we deliver to our kids and the next generation the tools to actually think differently, think broader, think also smartly, we're going to end up probably with different problems. So it is a bit of the cycle of human beings. But it is a beautiful thought of actually thinking, how can we equip in order to actually move and make that step forward or that step up in terms of humanity. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're talking about sustainability of creating something which we, maybe create a new culture or a generation that has this opportunity seizure culture or problem solving is a comment made by Charles English, who says developers need to know what market needs and make sure that there is an uptake of specific application can bring financial income through data. I think there's another important aspect. How do we? Maybe we need another hackathon. How do we get the information of opportunities and problems to developers or to such organizers of or hosts of hackathons?
Yeah.
That's an interesting item, and I think there's as much as we talk about digital transformation, opportunity management is a transformation on its own.
Yes, yes.
Because I think if you look at the boards today, we talk in board meetings around risk management, right? But not opportunity management.
Yes.
There we can see how little focus opportunities actually get. And I think there's a very, very important comment Charles makes here is how do we make sure this comes to the people that like you?
Yes.
How do we get this information to you? If I have an issue at ONL, how do we get this to you? And how do we develop that culture and not seeing it as a problem, but rather an opportunity?
Yeah.
I think that opportunity management is really a good idea because a lot of developers they have ideas and they have sort of a very infant state of solving a problem, but there's no platform for them to showcase that idea, and there's no platform for them to grow that specific idea. And it looks like there's a big gap between, let's say, students and probably developers and the industry itself. And I noticed that most of the time, these students do not actually know exactly what's required in real life, in the real industry day to day, because they don't exactly know what type of processes in specific companies, let's say local companies to Namibia, because most of the information, let's say online, is linked to countries outside of Namibia. So they would probably strengthen their skills in a specific thing that's not really needed relevant, in the country. But if you have, let's say, a consistent, let's say, like a sustainable hackathon initiative, and that would kind of motivate them to actually work harder and know that they can actually govern this specific skill, and there's actually some way for them to showcase it. Yes.
Nita, you're saying that there's a bridge missing, huh?
Yes.
Between those who can do and have ideas,
and what needs to be done,
but directing them to where actually the need is, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Does NUST, obviously you were telling me that the hackathon that you were exposed to were exhibits within these social intranet that you guys had.
Yes. There's NUST and there's the NBII group. That's, I think, they closely linked to NUST. That's where most of the hackathons are hosted. And yeah, they try really hard to get the students acquainted with what needs to be done. But I think most of the requirements need to come from the different companies, because different companies have their own way of governing things and their own what they need. Yeah. So if there's no direct link between the companies and the students that can do the work. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think the question is, why is that? Why is it there's this wealth of knowledge sitting, the developers with thoughts and ideas, and then we have the need within the industry, and why don't we talk to each other?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, it's what always intrigues me. I mean, as if we are, as if the world is perfect, as if we don't need it. I mean, where are we applying our minds by saying we need to really start something big going? I think in Namibia at the moment, in fact, the world, we need some new thinking, new ways of doing business. It's that time when we really need to challenge status quo.
That's the right word, challenge. You're probably right. Probably we thinking out of the box comes with risks, correct? And that is what probably also the education that we're coming from, most of previous generation and so forth, coming from a rooting that you cannot take risks or you're going to be punished and so forth. The new generation seems much more open for risk taking, or at least being able to adapt and the magic word, iterate, or sort of grow with it or grow out of it and grow to the next level. It is, to your point earlier on, Sven, it is mindset, but that can be nurtured. That can be nurtured, and to your point earlier on, through probably leadership. Leadership, and some of us carry it through. They have been exposed at an earlier stage in their career, in their academic life, and so forth. Some others grow it through the years. Some other they probably hesitate because of this risk implication.
Yeah, and I mean we had quite some few discussions in the last week and 2 weeks now about our new financial plans going forward. And many times we hear, thinking out of the box. There's two things here. There's business as usual.
Yes.
You continue as business as usual, and that is definitely not possible. That's the one thing. And the second part, also we need to stay realistic.
Yes.
That means we're accepting less than business as usual.
Yeah.
We can't be realistic. We have to become unrealistic. We have to become having targets that are unachievable to be able to force us to come together to think differently.
Yes.
It is for sure not possible to continue the way we do. And I think that's why I've asked this question. Until we hit a crisis, we'll start talking to each other. The question is, why don't we talk to each other before the crisis comes? I mean, I've got another interesting comment made, and I must say it's true, also from Quentin Bottrida again. Given the social distancing impact on sports, how do we enable online gaming to ensure the valuable learning from team playing is not lost? And I must say, at the moment, we're mostly using either Microsoft Teams or Zoom.
Yeah.
And the connection you can can actually uphold
Yes.
with your colleagues, it's often more intense than not. And I think from a going, for the new post-COVID situation, there is many ways of overcoming it.
Yes.
The issue, however, is often, it's fine, but still the moments of, making a joke, cracking basically a joke, or even, speaking to your, to secretary or whoever, a PA or anyone, that's definitely suffering
Yes.
under that. But you can again see, maybe that's another on a sport way, how to continue to keep this team playing, standing for each other,
Yes, alive. I think in many ways, if you think about it, people working from home, you're working from an environment which is familiar to you. So I've experienced that some of our team members, they actually, in that comfortness of being at home, we sort of put the guard a bit down. So in many ways, it was a pleasant situation. But to your point, Sven, that corridor chat quickly, that coffee in the kitchen, that will be different. The other silver lining, however, again, is that now we have proved that we can work from home. And that you can have also remote consultancies that are still effective. So there are definitely plenty of question marks. But again, we waited for the crisis to highlight that we could still do things and still be effective. Sure. Very interesting point indeed.
I think we are coming close to the end now, but there's a very interesting comment here as well from Mangula Ngongo. Again, in today's digital era, I believe coding is the new literacy. Therefore, every student should be taught to code. Coding teaches logical reasoning, problem solving, and to an extent how artificial intelligence works. Moreover, prepare the youth for the fourth industrial revolution. What an interesting comment.
That's a good one,
too. And I think we can see where this whole conversation goes to. We need to set up our generation for the fourth generation, the digital era, and start from young, basically.
Yes, yes.
And we just received another from Wilson Sionye. Having more of these software projects would contribute to building a technical, innovative business economy in Namibia. This would really build an economy that is able to adapt in times like these. I love this comment because sometimes people say, well, we are not technocrats. Namibia is not technocrats or whatever. We are denying ourselves opportunity. That I really think this is great because, we can do whatever we want to.
Yeah, well
and I think
said,
this is a great comment. And I think it should give us all hope.
Yeah, there's always a starting point.
Yeah.
So
maybe one or two final words from you, Nathan.
Again, I think I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak here. And I think the main thing that maybe we can walk away with is, like you said, creating a platform and sustaining that platform where, I think that comment that Wilson stated, we say we're not a digital country, but maybe we're selling ourselves short. Maybe we just don't have the platform to showcase that we can actually do these things that the other countries do. Because I think currently now most of the software potential and software programs are being outsourced outside. But maybe if we can try and harness the skill we have here and nurture the skill that we have here and then solve our own problems, because I think we know exactly what problems we have and we have the people that can do it. I think that's a good thing to look into.
Yeah.
And then you already got a fan, Nathan. Quinton says, I nominate Nathan to head up the Hackathon Hub for Namibia, an independent who can be the conduit between companies and the bridesmaids.
Excellent.
More challenge.
Thanks, Quinton.
Lissy May, maybe a final word.
Final word, 100% aligned with Nathan and Wilson. I think even if we're not renowned for technical skills and so forth, there's always a first step. and this is the first step, about opening an opportunity, then we can grow and nurture, to your point, Nathan, as we move along. But if we never start and if we never, or we sell ourselves short, this will never, see a future. I also would like to thank you, Sven, for inviting me in your fantastic platform and for having 3 sessions. It was really, really an opportunity that you gave to all of the Namibians out there and the youth that is actually digging digital.
May I return to things, Lucy May? It was really a pleasure to have you here. The 3rd session, and unfortunately it's our final one.
Yes.
But this will not be end, because we will certainly continue with Hackathon, and you will probably play a role there too. Thank you for joining here and taking your time and then sharing your knowledge. That's really appreciated. Nathan, thank you for joining us today. It was really inspiring. And then, of course, Philip also. I know that he's going to watch later. Thank you for your inspiring words. It's really amazing. And our star, Selma, who is doing, and for our people there will not have the privilege to watch it, hear it. I'm really, really pleased with what Selma's every time doing. And then I'm looking forward to the next talk to Sven, which will be next Tuesday from 6 to 6:30, slightly shorter. And I guarantee you it will be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. Please join us at the next session. You will have 1 or 2 laughs for sure. See you then.